Hello and welcome to another video from oorail. In this video we're continuing our progress with the ID Backscenes. Now if you haven't seen our previous video, then I'll just give you a quick rundown on what we did. We had a 20-foot section of wall and we installed ID Backscenes premium product. Now because of the way I had the layout designed in this transition section, I wanted to use the ID Backscenes Terraced Houses product. Unfortunately, the Terraced Houses product only covered a 10-foot section, and I needed to cover a much longer section of a wall. So what I decided to do was I decided to basically build a scenic break to go between the two back scenes. So what you're looking at here on the left hand side is the terraced house back scene, and that fits in pretty well with the kind of little village town scene that we have going on in that part of the layout. And then off to the right is their Into the Town series. I believe it's Pack C, and that actually comes in a 40-foot section if you buy all 4 packs, but the way that was designed, it didn't really fit with what I really wanted to do, and I liked some of the other rural back scenes that they had. So what I decided to do was try to mix and match some of their back scenes as best as possible, with the kind of a focus at least on the sky to make sure that the sky kind of matched up pretty well. Now this particular section that you see here, these are 2 vastly different back scenes, but what we're going to do is we're going to build a tunnel section as well as a raised track section right around where those Pullman coaches are in the background. So eventually when it's built up, what you'll see is just basically a tunnel and a raised track section, and there'll be something in the foreground in terms of buildings and probably infrastructure that will basically make it a lot cleaner, the transition between the 2 back scenes. So I've been testing a few things out, and I'm quite happy with that, and we'll show you that in a future layout update. But for today, I wanted to focus on the next section instead. So if I swing the camera around here, you'll see that it goes all the way to the corner here, and then in the corner what we've done is we have a new back scene. Now you'll notice there's a white line between the 2 back scenes, and the reason for that is I haven't actually cut the back scene yet. I've only put the back scene up with blue tack. So if you watched my previous video about ID Backscenes, the approach we've taken with these is what they recommend, which is to put it in place with the blue tack, then to remove the left and right edge that's white as close to the image as possible so that there's no mark or line between the 2 back scenes, and then basically peel the backing off and stick it to the wall. So we're not going to go and go through that again. I think I did a pretty good job explaining the setup and walking through the technique in the previous video. But in this video, what I wanted to do was explain the choices that we made in terms of the different back scenes, and then we'll show you the end result at the end. So what you're looking at here on the right hand side is the English village scene. Now the English village scene is a 2-pack system, and it comes with each pack comes with 2 5-foot sections, so you can ultimately create a 20-foot section that's continuous back scene. So the part of the wall that I'm using here that's off to the right is actually only 15 feet long. In fact, it's a little bit shorter than 15 feet by about an inch or 2. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting the 3rd panel of the back scene, but I wanted to show you that it is possible to line these things up even though they're different packs. So if you're looking at the back scene here to the right, that's the first section of the English Village Pack A, and then directly to the left of that, or in the dead center of the video here, that's Into the Town Pack C, which is a different pack. But if you notice, the tree line and the horizon are very, very close between the two packs. In fact, the English village pack here on the right has a large tree that's kind of just sitting there in the corner. So what we're going to probably do is just build up that corner with a sort of kind of three-dimensional kind of look to it by simply putting some items in the foreground that kind of join the two scenes together. So what we'll probably do is put a couple of large trees right in that corner so that you cannot really tell that there's a transition there. The clouds, if you look at them, are actually really, really close, so that's pretty good. And then we'll put some sort of scene in the foreground that makes it look continuous. So we might put some green foliage, we might put maybe a small farm building or something like that in the front. You can see there off to the right there is some sort of farm building in the back scene, so we might be able to use that to create a sort of a continuous scene. So I'm going to pull the camera back and just let you see the rest of this particular back scene. Alright, so I've zoomed the camera all the way out and then basically positioned the camera in the corner of the layout where the chimney stack for the power station is going. So you can see what I've done is basically just temporarily blue tacked this to the wall. So you can see here there's you know, it's not fully stuck at all, and you can see there's the white band going down the side here. So what we're going to do next is basically remove the first panel, which is the one that's clear down here. So we're going to remove that from the wall first, and then what we're going to do is basically take an X-Acto knife with a new blade and cut it on the bench, basically taking the two white strips on the left and right edges off of the thing and cutting it as close as we possibly can get it to the image without leaving any kind of white line there. And then what we're going to do is going to blue tack it back up into place, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this second piece that's right here, and then the third piece, which is here, we're just going to cut this particular edge off here and line it all up with the blue tack. And once I'm happy with that, what I'm going to do is, starting with the one that's clear down the end here, we're going to roll it back up into that far corner, leaving about an inch or two still attached to the wall, and then we're basically going to just peel the backing off, get about an inch or two stuck to the wall, and then basically bring it up to that edge right there. Once it's stuck to the wall and we're happy with it, and we'll stick the second piece to the wall. And then finally we'll know exactly then where this third piece will fall into place, and then we'll cut the piece off the end of it. So if I move the camera around, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. You can see on the left hand side we have the English village, and then on the right hand side we actually have this Peaks and Dales image instead. So the Peaks and Dales image is, we're just going to do it like we do the normal stuff and just cut the edges off of it and run it around. We're going to push the chimney stack all the way back into the corner so that it doesn't cast any shadows. And then what we're going to do is basically create a kind of building around the stack here that kind of goes into the back scene a little bit. And then we're going to create a low relief building that goes along the edge here to depict the kind of a larger power station type building. And then from a distance, hopefully that'll work out. I've done some testing and it seems to look pretty decent. And then that will obviously give us a sort of skyline, and you'll have this sort of little village that maybe perhaps is where all the workers for the power station might be living. So the Peaks and Dales setup is pretty nice as well. You can see there it's got some buildings, and I think the way this is going to pan out is the building's going to end up being about here somewhere. So I think what we're going to do is add some foliage and some walls along the maybe a stone wall or a little country stone wall to hide this white strip here. And then basically I'm going to put up maybe a little road in here between the track and the back scene, and add some trees and some foliage, and that will basically allow us to kind of integrate the background into the foreground, and it'll get us going in terms of building out this section of the layout. Now the plan is to complete this section of the layout before we start building the bridge, and I want to start building the bridge before Christmas, so I'm going to be working pretty heavily on this section of the layout. So I'm going to pan the camera around more to the right here, and you can see exactly what's going on in terms of the rest of the back scene here. Now this particular section of the layout is about 9 feet or so in length, and so as a result I will have to cut the back scene. However, I gave it some thought, and I think what I'm going to do instead is actually extend the back scene basically around the edge of the layout by about almost a foot, and that'll basically create a sort of a curved kind of horizon effect. So when you're standing here, it'll actually look like the thing is a continuous scene in the background, and hopefully by using various different camera positions we can get some pretty nice shots of the layout as well in our upcoming YouTube videos. Alright, so that's basically the plan and where we're at. So what I'm going to do next is very carefully start to take some of these back scenes off the wall and get them cut, and then put them back on the wall, and when they're all in position we'll go ahead and basically cut them. But as you can see, in terms of transitions here, the power station chimney stack does a fantastic job at breaking the scene there, so you can't really tell if the sky is any different. And to be fair, the sky actually between those two back scenes is relatively close. Now unfortunately there's multiple light sources that are hitting this chimney stack, and it's quite large, so we're going to have to work on making sure we position it in such a way that it doesn't cast too many shadows and look unrealistic. You definitely don't want it casting any kind of really deep shadow up against the back scene, which wouldn't normally be created by an object if it's off from the background. Alright, so what I'm going to do is get to work on all that, and then we'll let you guys see the end result, and I'll walk you through any issues that we had. Okay, so we're getting along with the back scenes here, and what I've done is, this is the very first one, and you can see right down there in the far corner, that's where we stopped the first one for the other section. I believe this is Into the Town Part C, and what you'll see here is the one we selected has a reasonably level kind of a tree line and a similar sky pattern, and I have to excuse my phone there. But basically the idea is that in this corner over here we'll be able to do some greenery kind of scenics and kind of blend where this kind of tree kind of greenery ends into the slightly more meadowy kind of looking thing on the other one. So what we've done is we've taken a ruler. This is a metal steel edge. I've taken a very small piece of blue tack and an X-Acto knife, and basically what we did was we trimmed this corner. Now this corner isn't too bad if you make a little bit of a mess of it. It's going to be hidden anyway, but you really want the skies to line up and not leave any kind of white cracks. And then I did the same thing on this edge, and you can see the phone there now. But basically here has been cut as well. Now this ID Backscenes does have an upper kind of border. Now we're leaving that, and we're also leaving the lower border. If I had to do this over again, I would probably have bought the back scenes first and put the back scenes all in, and then built the baseboard up against it. Probably even maybe put the baseboard a little bit higher up the back scene, but that's okay. We can work around it. It's not something that I thought of when I first started building this, so I never thought I was going to come over to this part of the house and sort of build this thing. So yes, what we're going to do next is basically do the same thing we showed you in the previous two videos. So we're going to peel back probably about 2 inches or 3 inches of the backing on this, line it up with that corner and with the edge of the baseboard, adhere it, make sure it's reasonably flat and level, and then we'll start to roll both sections out side by side until we get to here. And this is a little bit longer than where this edge will be, so it should end before we hit this other piece of backscene. And then once that's in place and we're happy with it and it's lined up, we'll take this one off and do the same thing. And then we'll do the same thing with the third one, which is over here in that corner. But that one's actually a little bit longer than the actual length of the wall, so we're going to have to cut part of it off at the end. So what I'm probably going to do is put this one and this one in place, and then when I get down to that end, I'll use the straight edge or a slightly smaller straight edge and cut it in place rather than trying to measure it. I'd much rather cut it in place, and hopefully that'll work out. And then what we got to do is do the same thing to the one here at the end, cut the edges off of it and line it up. And then the trickiest part that we have is going to be the last part over here, because it actually needs to roll around about 8 or 9 inches around the side. I decided I was going to have it roll around the side of the frame so that when the trains came around, especially with the GoPro on it, that it would give that kind of parabolic kind of view that you would expect if it was real. So we'll see how that works out. Still haven't quite figured out what I'm going to use for the back scene. I have a pretty good idea, but I'm not entirely sure yet, so I'm going to have to test a few things out. So I think today we're going to get it all the way to here, and that's going to be adhered, but there'll still be some of the backing kind of rolled up there in place. And then over the next couple of days we'll get the other part done, and I'll probably do the final part in a kind of a part 3 kind of an update. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and put this one in place. Now, since this one is actually the easiest of the 3, and you won't see me half leaning off the ladder over there, I'm going to actually film me putting this in place from beginning to end, and then you guys can see it kind of sped up. Alright, so let me get working, and we'll be back to you in just a minute. So we've got this section finished now, this first part. It was a bit of an effort. There are a lot of air bubbles, and just because of the accessibility down to this particular corner, it was kind of hard to see. There's actually quite a lot of fine paint bubbles on the wall, so I ended up using this very fine sandpaper. I believe it's 220 is the value for it, and I used that to basically work out any kind of problems with the wall, and it actually worked really well. It's actually smoother than the other 2 that I've done before, so I'm quite pleased with it. You can see where we mixed and matched the scenes here. Remember, this one on the far wall is into the city, or into the town, Pack C I think, and this one is the Pack A of the English village. You can see they're not really designed to work with each other, but they're very, very close. And you can see the sky patterns pretty well match okay. It looks fairly reasonable. So what we're going to do in that corner is you can see the English village one we just applied has some trees here that kind of just are a little bit taller than the ones that are here, and the horizon's just a little bit off. It's not very much off. I think it's off by maybe a centimeter or 2. So what we're going to do in that corner is, in the foreground, put some trees and stuff that are the same height or a little bit taller than this one here. And then what we'll do is that will basically blend the foreground and the 2 back scenes together, and we'll figure out something to do with that corner. There's a little building off here, a farm building off on the side, so we may be able to build that scene out like that. So if I move the camera this way, so you can see what I was talking about. Once we cut the edges off, it actually ended up stopping a few millimeters short of where it was before we cut the edges off. That's the main reason we haven't cut the very last section that's down the other end of the layout. Instead of measuring and cutting, what we're going to do is just cut each section and put it in place, and then when we get the last one done, we'll cut it in place, and it should be pretty much good to go. In fact, I think what I'm going to be able to do is line it up in that corner and basically run the X-Acto knife down the edge of it, but we'll we'll see how that pans out. So what we're going to do next is this next section, and I'm actually going to film me doing this installation. So what we're going to do is cut this and then apply it to the wall. And sometimes it's a bit of a task, sometimes it goes on easy. I think it really depends on the back scene and how much accessibility you have to this. I'm actually standing on our guest bed, so it's not quite a solid surface, but there's more of it, so rather than standing on the ladder, so I hope it's going to be a lot easier to install. And again, this is a 5-foot section, so we already installed one 5-foot section, and then we're going to install the second 5-foot section, and then we'll wrap it up with the third 5-foot section. Now it's very important with cutting this particular back scene, because it is the middle back scene. When we cut this, it needs to line up so it matches this, but we also have to make sure that there's no white. So when we cut this, we're going to have to cut it just a fraction of a millimeter inside the photo frame here, so that there's absolutely no white at all. And we need to do that on the other side since it lines up with the other back scene. So we're going to take our time with it, and hopefully it won't take very long. So give me a few seconds to get started, and apply the second back scene here. I'm not going to show you the rest of them. It's basically the same sort of deal over and over again, so I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to keep seeing me apply this. It'd be a bit like watching somebody apply wallpaper. But I did want to show you guys how I applied it, so if you have any better ideas, please feel free. One thing you will notice is there's a bigger gap now here than there is over here. So before people think that maybe I didn't cut this edge straight and that it is going this way or something, it's not actually my fault. In fact, the baseboards are actually level with the floor. What's happened is the floor isn't actually level with the ceiling here. So what's happened is the floor is actually going downwards this way in relation to the ceiling. So while the baseboard is the same height here as it is here, the floor is a couple of millimeters lower down here. So we can thank the the house builders for that. Now, it highlights something pretty normal though, is depending on where you live, a lot of chances are that your house probably isn't entirely square. So there's a good chance that your floor might be, could have subsided, or just could be built wrong in the first place. Also keep in mind that some of the lumber that I buy from Lowe's isn't always square or cut to the right measurements either. I've got some 4 foot by 2 foot pieces that are longer than 4 foot or smaller than 4 foot. So you can't just go that the materials you bought were correct. However, one thing I can tell you is that the back scenes are all correct, and I can tell you that this is level here. So the ceiling or the skyline will look fine. It does present us with a bit of a challenge. We'll figure something out. Probably just modify what I put here in the foreground, and I'm going to put some buildings or something, I think, for the power station down the other side, so it probably won't really matter too much. But that's just one thing to keep in mind. Sometimes if your baseboards aren't level with your floor and ceiling aren't level or square with each other, no matter how good your measurements are for your baseboards, if you put the back scenes in secondary to it, there's not a lot you can do about it. I could skew the back scene to try to make it go down, but then the problem is if it's straight down the other end, then the back scene will start to skew back up, or it just won't look right. It'll be harder to align. So like I said, if you're starting this from scratch, my advice would be put the back scene in first and decide on that and put that in first, and then add the baseboards, and then build from there. Definitely putting the back scene in as an afterthought like I have is not the best of approaches, but I definitely don't want to take the baseboards out. It's a non-starter, so we'll just have to work with what we have. So stuff like this though, it's easy enough to work around. You put a little wall in, or you put some other scenic items in. So the idea with this is to try to blend the foreground into the background to make it look realistic. So it's always good to maybe look at some photographs of little scenes like this and see what divides the railway and the back scene. It might be something as simple as some scenic items like trees and a wall, or you can hear there's a country wall right here that runs along. So maybe you could extend it along here to make it look like it's part of this wall that's right here. You can see there's some there, and it extends around the back, so you can make it look like the hill might come up a little bit and onto the railway. And then you could put some scenic items in the front, like bushes and shrubs and trees and so on. Still not quite sure what I'm doing with this. I originally planned to put a extra line in here, and there's enough space for it, but I think it might detract from the back scene now. So the original plan was to have something go in there for the power station. So we'll have to figure that out, what makes sense. Maybe the power station gets cold from a different route or something like that. We'll have to see what works and what doesn't. I know the back scene that I have over here, if I spin the camera around, that back scene right here actually looks like it has a railway line that runs along the if I can point it out here, it's a little hard, it's a bit of a delay on the camera. Yeah, it runs on there. So maybe that's how the power station gets its power, coal and so on. We'll have to figure that out. But anyway, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to work on this next back scene, and obviously it's going to be a little trickier since it's raised up just a little bit right there. So we'll have to work on that a little bit, but shouldn't be a problem. And we have the power station's chimney stack in the corner to help us offset any sort of height differences that might be between the two. I do know this section over on the other side is pretty level, so we should be alright. Alright, so I'm going to go get cracking and finish the rest of it, and then we'll show you the end result and some shots of it, trains going past it. And then in the next back scenes video, which will probably be the last one, I'll do the part 3, which will be showing you how I integrate that curved section for about almost a foot or so down the end there. This is now becoming comical with my finger. Yeah, there you go. So this section here, we'll show you how to extend that around, and that should be it. Then just watch the layout updates to see how we integrate the scenery into it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that. Alright, so let me get this finished and show you the end result.